What's up everybody, Ramey here, and today we're talking about the Titan Fitness pulley system that you see right next to me. I'm going to go through, review it, talk about what I like, don't like, my thoughts about it. I'll compare it a little bit to a standalone lat pull down low row and tell you what I think. I also can kind of compare it to a functional trainer and talk about this thing, tell you all the good and bad about it. Now I purchased this system scratch and dent off Titan, so I got it about 50% off, and I didn't expect it to be perfect when I got it. I expected a few little scratches, and there were a few. No big deal though, really nothing to write home about. But normally there's a tall and short version of this. The tall version is 85 inches, the short version's like 81 inches or something like that, so not much of a difference. The tall version is 250 and the short version is 230 right now on Titan's site. As I said, I have the short version. I probably paid about half that for this when I got it. So I got it, took a couple days to ship. When I got it, I had to build it. So how long did this thing take to build? I want to say it took me like about 45 minutes. It might have taken like an hour 15 minutes. Really wasn't too bad. The most difficult part for me in building this and putting the machine itself together, before I talk about the functionality of it, was figuring out how I was going to place it on my wall. So there are really two ways to place this thing. So the first way is to put it up against your wall and actually nail it into the wall, and the second thing is to actually put it on a squat rack. Yes, you can actually put this thing on a squat rack, which is kind of cool. And just if you're like cautious and curious about like, would this fit on my rack? Basically, as long as your rack meets the height requirements of this machine, you can see the bracket up at the top here. Actually, there's not holes in it. It's just one big long extended hole. So it's going to pretty much fit in any squat rack that you can put it in. You're going to have to get the bolts for it, but yes, it's going to fit your squat rack, no problem. And it fits into the wall, no problem. Now for me, I actually had to put it up a little bit because of the way my garage, the bottom is situated. There's like a ledge and I wanted it to be above the ledge. So I actually got some cinder blocks here, as you can see. They were like $1 each at Lowe's or Home Depot. I got them at Lowe's, I guess. They were like $1 each. So I put it up about 8 inches on some cinder blocks, and the only reason I did that is because of the way my garage is shaped. But really simply, it just screws right into the wall. You do need a stud finder. You got to put this thing in a stud. I guess you can put it in concrete or, as I said, your rack. I would have preferred a rack, but this is going in my wall. I already got a lat pull down on my rack. So as far as like the space this takes in your garage, it takes up about 2.5 feet from the wall and then about 2 feet the other way, like horizontal. So it takes about 2.5 by 2 feet if you're thinking about like how much space is this thing going to take up. And if you want to ask, yes, you absolutely need to anchor this to a wall. I actually hooked mine up and didn't anchor it to the wall for about 2 or 3 days because I needed to kind of figure out how I was going to get it above the ledge. Like, did I want to build something out of wood? What was I going to do? I just went to Lowe's, happened to see the concrete, and I was like, oh, this is a simple, cheap solution. However, in that 2 or 3 day time, I would like come out and play with it and just like do something real quick just to see how it would work. And if I would even touch it and it wasn't nailed to the wall, the thing was coming down. You 100%, this has to be on something. It cannot be standalone. 100% this thing cannot be standalone. So you can see it comes with everything you see here. It does come with these nice brackets, handles, which I actually thought would be really junky because that's like cloth and like a piece of plastic here. I'm actually using these all the time over all my other attachments that I paid all this money for, which is kind of funny. They're like hanging up back behind me. So I'm actually using this all the time. Now, the big question is, how does this work? Is it smooth? So first of all, to take care of the thing, just 10-in-1 oil like everything else, barbell and other lat pull downs. I wipe it down. I wipe my stuff down with 10-in oil whenever I remember, which is generally like once every 2 to 6 weeks. Nothing's rusting in my garage, and I do live in a coastal community where it's very salty, hot, and humid in the coastal southern state. of North Carolina. So yeah, you can hear like bugs outside right now. It's like 100 degrees where I'm sitting in my garage right now. No, it's not that hot, but it feels hot. So you northerners, this would feel really hot right now. To us southerners, it feels good right now. Anyway, so you can see the rack itself. So how does it work? So first of all, it takes 1-inch weights, which is kind of cool. You can see I can put my 1-inch weights right on it. It says it holds 350 pounds. I've never tested that before, but it does say it holds it. Now the cool thing about having the 1-inch size weights is for those of you like me that just have a bunch of these things laying around, you can use them. Plus, you can always put Olympic weights on something that holds 1 inch. So you can always put your Olympic weights right on this. Super simple. And you can use any type of like clamp. You know, it comes with some little clamps here, and you could use these for your Olympic weights. You know, because it's greater than 2 inches, so it'll hold them as well. Super simple. But for those of you like me that just have some standard, like I buy these at yard sales whenever I see them and stuff. I have a huge collection of standard inch plates that I really don't use for anything but sitting around. And yeah, I'm able to actually get some use out of them with my pulley system. So that's kind of cool. So how does this thing work? So first of all, it goes up and down. You can see there's like two like pulleys here. It goes all the way up, all the way down, and then there's holes every few inches where you can lock it into. You can actually screw this in if you wanted to. I've never screwed it in. If you were doing really heavy like lat pull downs, you probably want to screw it in, but I have never screwed it in. I just keep it, it just basically pulls right out, goes right back in, very similar to any gym machine or functional trainer that you've ever used before. Really, putting it together was really easy. The directions weren't too great, which I'm finding for pretty much every piece of gym equipment I've ever put together. Even like stuff I buy from Wayfair and Walmart, like furniture, is always terrible too. So you kind of get used to putting it together. If you ever put anything together, it's really, as I said, it took me 45 to like 115. It really was not bad. Pretty simple once you look at some pictures and see how it is placed together. But yeah, pretty easy. As far as like using this thing, what can it be used for? So that's kind of the big questions, is like, you know, my big questions when I saw this is, could you put it to any squat rack? And as you can see from the bracket, you can. The other thing was, can this replace, can I use this, like what can I use this for? So you can use it for tons of stuff, anything you can use cables for. You know, I use it for a lot of things, like my shoulders, like just to warm up my shoulders or strengthen my rotator cuffs. You can use it for, and I'm just showing you like a few things, and you can connect any kind of attachment to this that you want. But you can do all kinds of things, like you could do shoulder exercises, you know, one arm shoulder exercises. You know, and I get like that's all easy stuff. The real questions for me were, can I use this to replace a functional trainer, and can I use it as a lat pull down? So first of all, yes, you can 100% use this to replace a lat pull down low row. Very simply, put it at the top, connect these two together with a little clamp, and put your lat pull down thing, and voila, you can do your lat pull down. The only difficult thing with this is there's not many options to hold yourself down. Whereas when you have your lat pull down on a squat rack, there's a lot of attachments that you can get to your rack to hold your legs down while you're doing your lat pull down. With this, you really sit on your bench, and that's all you're gonna have is clamping your legs on your bench. There isn't as much. As far as low row, very simply do a low row on this, super easy. Just basically sit down, and with my like feet being right here, it's like perfect for low row. The one thing I will mention about the low row and lat pull down on this pulley is I'm not super comfortable putting very high weights and pulling on one of the studs in my wall. I know they can take it, but I'm just not a big fan of pulling on the studs in my house if I can avoid it. So I do prefer having the low row on my squat rack, or I'd rather have this on my squat rack because of that weight that I'm doing a lot. But realistically, it's probably fine. If I was doing a lot of weight, or there was a lot of people working out where I am, like I wouldn't want this in like a college gym up against like the stud in the wall, because it's probably gonna get pulled out. But it is really stable and everything. I'm not saying it's not stable. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the stability. I'm just saying I personally do not like pulling on a stud in my wall if I can avoid it. So mostly I do my lat pull down low row on my machine, and it's also a better machine anyway. But I do a lot of light stuff on this. which is great. So what else can you do with this? And I do a lot of things. Like I actually leave these on because I have my attachments on my other machine, but I'll come over and like burn my triceps out while I'm doing tries over on my squat rack. So many different things. I put like my bench here, do leg curls with the machine. I mean, you can do so many different things. Biceps, you can put any attachment onto here as well. But the real big questions were, is it as good and smooth as like one of the rod-based systems? No, it's not as smooth, but honestly, like, it's not even a quality of life thing. Like the improvements so small and minute compared to one of the rod-based systems, I honestly could care less which I had. Like, yes, this could 100% just be my only system, and I would be fine with that. The rod-based systems on your rack are nicer, they're smoother, they're much more like a gym, but this is fine. I really don't, it's not like a big improvement for me. It's like a tiny improvement. Oh, it's a little bit smoother or something, but like really doesn't make that big of a deal. As you can see, you can use no weight with this, like no problem. You can easily use no weight, and it does give you some resistance. So like for doing those shoulder exercises and stuff, really good. The other questions were, can this function as like a functional trainer, or can I replace a functional trainer with this? And the answer is, it kind of does some stuff that a functional trainer does. So some of my big questions that I had, and yes, you can do things like face pulls and all that stuff, but some of the big questions that I had were like, could I do like PEC flies with this? Is this wide enough to do PEC flies? And it kind of is and kind of isn't. If you wanted to do any kind of exercise where you needed your bench in here, whereas like having like something on your squat rack or a functional trainer that's angled outwards and you wanted to put your bench inside of it, you can't do that here because your bench would stop right here. The back, it stops right here before the machine. So you can't really use your bench with it to do like any kind of PEC fly exercise or shoulder exercise. Now, can you do PEC flies just with the machine? And the answer is kind of. What I mean by kind of is, you can see right here, the cable is kind of on my arm. So while I can do this, it's not that great of an exercise. It feels a little awkward. If I put it up a little higher, I can get around my body and go above. But you can see it like almost does hit my neck. It's not bad, that's all I'm gonna say. If you're looking for something to just burn your pecs out after bench press, and this isn't like a main builder exercise, you do pretty lightweight and you're just burning yourself out after doing push-ups or chest press or something like that, this will do that. And it's actually great for that. Very similarly with shoulders, same kind of thing. I can actually do a simulated shoulder press with this machine. It actually works really well. It's a great way to burn my shoulders out after overhead press if I want to. It kind of replaces all my dumbbells in a sense. So you can do tons of cool stuff with this. You know, it's one of those things where it does everything pretty well, but it's not like a master in any way. It doesn't really replace a functional trainer, but it kind of does. I can mostly do everything a functional trainer can do with this. So depending on how you're going to use a functional trainer, you might be able to get away with this. Or you can even get two of these right next to each other and actually create a functional trainer and save a bunch of money. Does it replace the lat and low row? Kinda. I mean, I can do everything with this. I personally just don't like pulling on my stud. But yeah, it holds 350 pounds. You're not doing, who's doing their lat pull down with 350 pounds? I know I'm not. So you might be, but I'm not. So it's a really cool piece of equipment. I paid $130 for this thing. So I can't complain. It's awesome. But even at $250, $230, $250, it's a really functional piece of equipment. The fact that it moves up, down, the amount of exercise I can use, it really replaces dumbbells for me. Between that and my lat pull down and low row, I really don't use my dumbbells for anything anymore. So it's a really great machine. You just have to you do have to anchor it, which is the one big disadvantage. You gotta find the place on a wall or on a rack to hold it. But overall, cool machine, works really well. I mean, given the cost, it's like almost like a no-brainer if you got the space for it and you can't fit a functional trainer because they're pretty big and you don't want to put like something on your rack. This is like the next best option, and it's actually a really good option for all of the things that it does do. Go ahead and look at the specs on Titan's site to make sure it really, like, you know, I said it was 80 inches, like 80.5 inches or something like that, this one. But you know, the space that it does take up is pretty small in my house. Really doesn't take up any space. I can even use like the back area. You can see that I have like some stuff hanging here because the weights don't hit, because it extends out enough that I'm able to use some space. As I said, the bracket, it'll attach to anything. Super easy to set up. Really didn't take me that long to hook up. Finish feels really good. I mean, it's a nice, smooth. I got a rep bench sitting right next to it right here. Same kind of finish on this thing. I mean, it looks exactly the same kind of black shiny paint. Feels the same. It's smooth. It works. So yeah, it's a cool thing, and it does come with an attachment. And honestly, I've kept this attachment on. You can change the size of this attachment. I don't put any other attachment on this machine besides these. They're actually that good, nice. I was surprised. I thought they'd be really junky. They don't feel very like solid or good, but they work like functionality wise. They're great. They work really well. I just keep them on for everything that I do, and I pretty much use this every single time I work out in some way, whether it's to warm up, burn out, cool down, get some pump in my shoulders, chest, legs, whatever it happens to be. I'm using this machine. So yeah, kind of cool, super easy to use, and that's my review of it. I hope you enjoyed. And if y'all have one or have used one, love to hear your review. Leave some comments below. All right, later everybody.